Hello, everybody. I am going to just share a few tips as it relates to Google Sheets. This will not necessarily be a how to do all things Google Sheets. I'll actually post a video in the description from YouTube that you can reference to see how to do Google Sheets. But I just wanted to give a few options on how we access it specifically from our standpoint, and also just a few tips on how we can use it as we're collaborating in this remote workspace, and even for the future. Even when we return to work, it'll be good ways for us to collaborate. As I've mentioned in previous videos, Google Sheets allows for spreadsheeting, much like the functionality of Excel. It can be used from your computer or smartphone, and I do have a video on how to see all of the different things that we are doing now remotely, the different apps and how they can be available on your phone. I'll make sure that that's always linked at the bottom of each video so you can see what the functionality looks like on your cell phone. But it's really great for that reason as well. And again, you could use this if you're doing like planning sheets, fall planning, whatever it is, as long as you're not have sensitive information in there like B numbers. And I know we have to put that in for fall planning, but maybe you put that in after you download it last so that we can work virtually and be in the document at the same time. It really improves efficiency. It can also be used for things like if you're tracking some sort of refund request, or maybe you're tracking phone calls and multiple people need to do it. Google Sheets is really good for that as well. So how do you access it? So again, as I've mentioned in every video, you want to make sure that you're logged into your Oakton related Gmail account. Here I am not, so I'm going to make sure that Oakton is selected. Something to keep in mind again as you do this, sometimes if you're in your virtual private network, it won't go through properly, and so you may have to get out of your VPN network and just do this straight from Google. But that's only if you have that issue. But I just wanted to let people know that there have been people that had issues. And so with that being said, you would go in here then and you would click on the dots, and again you're going to Google Sheets. And so you can always go through your drive and go from there, but the quickest way to do it straight away is to just click on Sheets. Once you click on Sheets, you're going to be able to see sheets that you've done. And then you are also going to be able to create blank sheets if that's what you would like to do. So I am going to actually, for the sake of this conversation, just bring up a sheet that I've already utilized it for. So this is like just a rollover from our standpoint. And I just want to show a few things that you could do within Google Sheets. Again, I'll have a video at the bottom for how to specifically create things like this in the future. So a few things that you can do as you're working in Google Sheets. One of the things that I like to do is always, I like to make the view very easy. So there are things that you can do that, say as you're scrolling down, this is a large sheet and I want to know, oh, which field am I looking at right now? But the fields are up here and I got to keep scrolling back and forth. So there's things that you can do, like you can freeze the top row or top rows. So I want to freeze the first row. And once I freeze it, as this moves, as you can see, that first row stays so I can see. You can also do the same thing. And again, you're looking at view where you can freeze a particular column. So maybe you want to freeze a particular column because you have to scroll over. So maybe I want to freeze this column to know what the course code is. And so as I move, you see that column stays stationary as we're moving over. So that's one of the options you can do. And once if you say you want to remove all that, you say no rows and then no columns, and that removes all of the everything that was frozen in place. If your words are wrapping outside of your cells, so say they're moving all out, and you need to be able to see that better. Let me see if there's a way to see. Well, here they're not wrapped out, but in this case, if it was not, it would kind of spread over into these other columns. The way that you want to do that is you want to go to Format, you want to go to Text Wrapping, and you want to make sure you wrap within the cell instead of having it the words overflow outside of the cell. This just helps with some visual needs as you're working with data. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to look at previous versions, so we have previous versions. I've talked about this in other. If you want to look at your version history, you can see your version history, and you click on that, and it kind of shows you the different version histories based on day and time, and you can kind of you're like, oh, we did this last version was wrong, we want to go back to what we were doing Monday, then you can look at that as well. But it automatically saves. And the thing is, I believe you can actually rename this if you want to do that. Yeah, you can name a particular version if you want to do that. Because again, all of this automatically saves. You don't have to do that. If you want to make comments, so if you're working with different people and you want them to reference something, you can add different comments to a particular part. You know, you can click on that cell and say, hey, is this the right title for the class? And then people will be able to see that as they're looking at the various comments. But it's a good way to kind of look at revisions and different things that you need to do. But that's a way that you can add comments to a particular sheet that you're working on, especially with collaborators. Also, again, if you just want to share this, you're clicking on your share button. You're going in, you're either adding the names, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate access that you want them to have, whether it's viewing, comment, or editing. And you can add their names and then click send and done, or you can always do the link. And again, you want to make sure that what do you want them to do? You want the people that you share with to view, comment, or edit. Whatever it is, you would actually copy that link. You can select it, and then you can click copy link, and you could always email this to them and they would have that access. One thing people will ask you about when you've shared a video with them, or when you've shared a file with them from Google Drive, they will be logged into their personal account, and it won't let them in. So they have to make sure that they're logged into their Oakton related Gmail account in order to have access. Just something to keep in mind. As far as some of the other things that you want to keep in mind, it looks like you are able to email this as an attachment. You can always download this. It appears, I have not tried this, but that you can email the collaborators a particular message about to say, hey, I'm done with my part of the sheet, and you can hit send. I believe you can do that. I haven't tried it, but it looks like it's an option. That's something to keep in mind. And yeah, it's just a great thing to utilize if you're having to do a lot of collaboration or to work on a spreadsheet while you're working remotely. And again, even for the future, it might be something that you want to utilize depending on your project. Again, as with any particular document or sheet or form that we're using, you can't input sensitive information like B numbers. Also, this is again something that typically is not accessible to Oakton employees or folks that don't have the Oakton designation of like an instructor or staff member. So that's something to keep in mind as it relates to the permissions that could be lifted at any time at some point. I'm not sure, but sometimes that's been stopped, and so it's something that you would want to test if you're trying to give folks outside of Oakton or within Oakton but don't have the Oakton credentials access to a particular sheet. Again, I will put in the bottom some videos that you can look at just to get a more broad or specific view of Google Sheets and how to create a Google Sheet yourself. Thank you.